channel. Today I am so excited about this new palette from BH Cosmetics. This is the Opalescent palette. I am so excited, you guys. This palette is so beautiful. It's making me scream for spring. I'm so excited and ready for spring, you guys. And I love the packaging. They did such a beautiful job. This is what the carton looks like. I really like the packaging, just simple and easy. This book is really simple and easy, but very durable. I feel like all the shades are protected in here, which I love. And you get a full-size mirror. I love that. Now, this palette actually retails for $24. Currently, I think the sale ends tonight. When you guys see this, the sale will end tonight. But this palette is on sale for $19. So if you guys are interested in getting it after watching this review, I will leave a link to it in the description box down below to buy it from the BH Cosmetics website. I really love BH Cosmetics. There's several reasons why I do, but when it comes to their eyeshadow palettes, they've always been kind of hit and miss. But you guys know that my top, this is my top favorite palette. This is one of my favorite palettes in the more affordable option. This is the Desert Oasis palette, and I love this palette on every level. You guys have probably heard me talk about this several times, but this is one of my favorites. During the summer, I also reviewed this one. This is the Nauvoo Neutrals palette. And I really loved this too. The only thing I didn't like about it is I felt like the packaging was a little bit on the cheaper side, and I felt like these shades were not very protected. So that was definitely something that I was a little bit concerned about, but I loved having all the blush shades down here, and then you had all these shades in here. I was really excited when I seen this because I really liked all of the shades in here. I really liked the story in here. I got some of your darker shades down here. You got your purples over here and your pinks and your peaches. And then you got a neutral moment. So I really appreciate the way that they structured the palette within the shades. Today, I actually created 4 looks with this palette. So I decided there are so many shades within this palette and I wanted to use as many as I possibly could. So I actually created 4 different looks and I'm excited to share them with you. And I really tried to stay within those sections. The first look is in this area, the second look is this area, the third look is this area, and the fourth look is this area. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. We're going to jump into all the tutorials, and then later on I'm going to swatch it for you and then give you guys my full final thoughts on the palette. So let's jump right into the tutorials. We're going to go into the light shade called Flutter. And I'm just going to take a big fat fluffy brush and I'm going to put Flutter all over my lid just to set my primer. I did put down the P. Louise base in shade 3. So I kind of want to go over that and make sure that everything is nice and set down. My brushes are all clean, by the way, and it makes me so freaking happy. Okay, I'm going to take this brush from the Sonia G Pro Eye Set. This is the Crease Pro. I'm going to first go into Dainty. Kind of pop that on the crease. I mean, it's really light. It's not as pigmented as I was hoping for, but it's a nice shade. And I think if you have lighter skin tone than I do, this will be a really good transition shade. I'm going to go into Charm. Ooh, Charm is really pretty. They're a little bit dusty. They're pretty decent quality for being such an affordable palette. I'm going to kind of see if I can kind of build that up. I'm going to go into Dainty, and I'm just going to take this pencil brush from the Sonia G Pro Eye Set. And I'm going to bring this along my lower lash line. Then I'm going to go into Charm. While I have that brush in my hand, I'm just going to kind of fill in spots that maybe were blended away or whatever. I'm going to go into that fluffy brush and just kind of do this motion and kind of pull the shadow into the crease. I'm going to switch brushes and I'm going to go into something a little bit smaller. I'm going to go into the shader crease brush. This is the E47 from Sigma. And I'm going to go into Mystic. It's like a dark brown. And I'm going to kind of place this right here in the crease and kind of carve that out. And then I'm going to go back in with the Crease Pro. And I'm going to blend that into the crease. Kind of buff away that line. And then I'm going to go into that shade Mystic and try to like buff that out a little bit. Now I'm going to go into Gorgeous and try to really buff that line out. Okay, now I'm going to wipe the brush off and I'm going to go back into Dainty, which was the first transition shade. I'm going to pop that right there in the crease and kind of get rid of that harsh line, because the problem is some of these shades are, don't get me wrong, they're pigmented, but they're a little bit harder to blend out. So I'm really trying to buff it away just to try to get those shades to buff and blend. With a BH Cosmetics palette, I've always said this. I love their shadows and I love how affordable they are, but you do have to work a little bit harder than you do with other palettes. Like, I've always said that. And, you know, for me and the way that I apply eyeshadow, that's just been something that has always rang true. And this palette is no exception to that. I just have to work a little bit harder. I'm able to get it there, but they are a little bit harder to work with. I'm going to move on to the lid, and then if I need to add something like this, I'm really struggling to blend. As you can see, I'm just really struggling to blend that line out. So I'm going to go ahead and put the lid shade on, and then I can determine how much more work I need to put into it. So I'm going to go ahead and just take a felt tip applicator, and I'm going to dampen it with my makeup wipe that I have here, and I just kind of pinch it, just so that I'm not like spraying it and like soaking it. And then I'm going to go into the shade Dreamer, and it's a really, really peachy shade. It's really pretty. Oh, that shade is freaking pretty. You guys know I'm a sucker for a peach. Anything peach, I love. I'm gonna kind of bring that up over that line, and maybe I can like use that to kind of buff that line out, because that line just does not want to come out. Like, it's kind of like stuck there, you know? So I'm gonna take this brush from the Sonia G Pro Eye Set. This is the Builder Pro. And I'm gonna go into the shade Charm, and I'm gonna like buff that into that and just really try to blend that line out, because I don't really care if the dimension's there, which is the reason why, you know, I have the dimension, which is the reason why I did it, but I really, really want to blend that line out. How did I know that the first look I would create with this palette would be peach? I mean, I kind of seen that coming. Okay, so I think for my inner corner, I'm going to go into the shade Star. It seems like it's the lightest shimmer in the palette. And I'm going to put this right in the middle. I'm going to put that right there in the inner corner, and it's not very pigmented. I'm trying to get it to show up, but it's just, it's not that impressive. It looks like it is, but then when you put it on, it kind of dulls down, which is kind of a bummer. It's kind of getting hard panned. I'm going to scrape it with my fingernail. So I just scraped it because it is getting a little bit hard panned. So now that I've scraped it, I'm going to go in and spray it. Okay, now we're getting it to pop up. So it does get a little bit hard panned, but it's doable. I mean, you can still work with it. Okay, so this is the final look, and I just went ahead and threw on some House of Lashes in the style Iconic Lights, which are always my go-to. As far as my lippy goes, I went ahead and grabbed the KKW Beauty Lip Liner Nude number 1. I grabbed this from Dominique Cosmetics. This is from the Lemonade collection. This is a gloss. And this is in the shade Sweet Tea, and I kind of thought that it would go with the whole orange and kind of brown look that I have going on. I'm gonna go ahead and wipe this off, and I will see you guys in look number 2. Okay, I am back for look number 2. For this look, I am going to play around, I think maybe in this section of the palette. Did go ahead and put on my P. Louise base back on, and I did set everything with the shade Flutter. So just like I did in last tutorial. I'm going to go into that shade Grace. That shade is a nice transition shade, and it's a nice cool tone brown. Okay, now I'm going to go into the shade Gorgeous, which is right next to it. The shadows are a little bit dusty, a tiny bit chalky almost, but they blend out nice. Now I'm gonna go into the shade Stunner, and I'm just gonna deepen that right below where I put that last shade. And just kind of deepen that up a little bit. I'm gonna grab this brush this is from Sigma. This is the Exact Blend Brush, the E32. And I'm gonna follow the exact same down here on the lower lash line. I'm gonna go into the shade Grace first, and I'm just gonna kind of bring this along here. And then I'm gonna go into Gorgeous. And then I'm gonna go into Stunner. And I'm gonna take this brush and kind of deepen this up just a tad right here or along this part. I'm gonna go into the felt tip applicator, and I have dampened it, and I'm gonna go into Sequin. Ooh, okay, that's really pretty. Little bit messy, but it's really pretty. And I'm gonna kind of like bring it up into the crease. And I just kind of do this like flicking motion where I put most of the product on the lid, but then I take whatever's left and I just kind of lift it up into the crease. I'm gonna go on the other side of the applicator, and I'm gonna go into Opulent. And I'm gonna pop this right here on this outer portion. Yes, it is dirty, so I probably should have done my concealer afterwards. Maybe I'll go ahead and spray it. That might help to hold it together so I don't get more of a mess. And now I'm just kind of taking my finger and like buffing it into the other shade on the lid. So Opulent is really soft, and it really blends really nice into the lid. Like, I'm really impressed with it. So I'm gonna go into Sequin and kind of like blend that back out. And it might have been messy. I might have gotten a little bit of fallout from the felt tip applicator. Maybe it was just a shade that works better with a finger, because I'm not getting a lot of fallout using my finger like I did with the felt tip applicator. On the other eye, I will use my finger only and see if it was the felt tip applicator. But those really blended nice together, and I love how that dark on the outer corner just kind of gave it a little bit more dimension. I'm going to grab this brush from the Sonia G Pro Eye Set, and I'm going to go into the shade Sequin. And I'm going to place this right up here because I want to bring that shimmer up into my crease. I think it's such a beautiful shade that I definitely want to bring it out. I feel like it needs to be kind of the star of the show because it's so beautiful. I'm going to go back to this brush, and I'm going to go into the shade Stunner, and I'm going to pop that over top just to kind of melt all of those together. I think I'm also going to bring that shade along the lower lash line. I'm going to grab this brush. This is the Smudge brush, the E21. I'm going to go into Sequin, and I'm going to bring it like right here. I think I want to put this one on the inner corner. That one is called Romance. So I'm going to first put it up on my brow bone. Maybe I should have went in with, ooh, look how beautiful that yellow gold is. Okay, I'm going to put Delight. I'm going to put Delight, ooh, like right here, and really make that shade pop. Yes. Okay, that's so pretty. I think I'm going to put Delight right here on the inner corner, because it's a beautiful, like, bright gold. Okay, so this is the final look, and I really like this look. Yes, it's kind of a neutral moment, but I really like how you can create a neutral moment with this palette, because it does look so springy, and I like how it has that versatility within the palette that you can create just a beautiful coppery brown tone type look. So for my lip, I put on the KKW Beauty Nude number 3 lip liner. And then I threw this on, which is from Estee Lauder. This is the Pure Color Envy Liquid Matte in 111 Naked. And then I went into the shade Delight, that really pretty gold shade right there. And I popped that right there in the middle of my lip while the matte was drying, and kind of gave it a little bit of that shimmer that it was needing. But I really like this look, and I will say with the shadows that I used in that look, I feel like they worked so much better. And when I was doing this eye, I went in with this brush to apply the shimmer, and you know, I just put it on there, sprayed it, and then went in. It worked good, but those two shades, the Sequin and the Opulent, those shades like the finger the best. Like the finger is the best to apply those. So I'm gonna go ahead and wash this off, and I'm gonna do look number 3. So I will see you guys then. Okay, we're just gonna keep going because I'm having fun playing in this palette. I might even do 4 looks. I don't know, because I really want to dive into the purple. I don't know, so I think I might be doing 4 looks in this video, even though my eyelids are getting a little bit sore, but they'll manage. They'll manage. They gotta toughen up a little bit because I'm excited. This is a lot of palette, and I want to play with as many shades as I possibly can. I'm gonna first take the crease brush, and I'm gonna go into the shade Grace, and I am going to bring that all up into the crease, just like crease. Now, I probably shouldn't have put my concealer back on because I kind of have a feeling I might be getting some fallout. I'm doing kind of windshield wiper motions and bringing it all the way in and then all the way out and all the way in and all the way out, just to make sure that all of that is covered. I wore a really light foundation today too, just because I knew I'd be like all over the place with my eyeshadows. First things first, I really want to go into the shade Magic because I kind of feel like Magic is going to be that really pretty periwinkle shade. I'm gonna put some here on the brush. This is the Worker Pro from the Sonia G Pro set. And I'm gonna pop this right here on the, oh my gosh, that shade is so much prettier than I thought it was gonna be. You guys, can you see how beautiful that shade is? Oh, she's pretty, you guys. Oh, she is pretty. So pretty. Now to top it off, I am going to go in with my finger and just kind of really press that over top, because it seems like these shadows, they apply well with a brush. For the most part, the finger's going to do the job. So I recommend, you know, putting it on with a brush and then going over it just to like really make it pop with the finger. I'm going to put on this shadow shield only because I kind of have a feeling that this purple is really going to make a mess. All right, so I'm going to go into the shade Wish, which is really purple. And I'm going to like pop this on this outer corner and start kind of like buffing that into the periwinkle shade. And then like start bringing it up into the crease. It's not as pigmented as you think, and so therefore it's a little bit easier to work with. I'm going to be honest. You know, sometimes there's the good and bad about having like a pigmented shadow. Sometimes, you know, it can be a pain in the butt to have to really build a shade, but there's other times where you're almost grateful that it's not so pigmented, and then you know that you're not going to have just this explosion, especially with that dark of a shade. You're not going to have this like major explosion on your eye that you're going to have to work your butt off to blend out. But I love that shade. It's so pretty. And it's kind of blending nicely. So I'm going to take this brush. This is the Exact Blend brush. And I'm going to go into that shade Wish. And I'm going to pop that real tight to this outer corner. And you know, before I was kind of putting it on and blending it out, and now I'm using a smaller, more precise blush Now I'm using a smaller, precise brush, and then I can really pack the pigment. Like, I love that shade with that periwinkle. Like that, I don't think they could have chosen a better shade to work with that periwinkle shade. Like, that really pretty purple shade. Like, I don't know that they could have chosen a better shade to work with that one, because those two together are absolutely beautiful. I'm gonna go into the shade Grace, which is what we first started with. I'm using that shade to kind of blend everything out and really make sure that everything's nice and blended. Now for the lower lash line, I'm gonna grab this brush and I'm gonna go into the shade Grace and kind of bring that along here. It has a little bit of that purple left on it. That purple's pigmented. So I'm gonna go into Stunner. Then I'm gonna go into Wish. Kind of just like marry all of those shades together. For the inner corner, I'm going to go into Twilight, which is right next to it. I'm gonna go into Twilight. I've got some right here. I'm gonna spray it and pop it right here. Oh, okay. That one's kind of dull, and it could have been so much more vibrant. And I'm gonna pop it right here in this inner corner just to kind of brighten up the inner corner. But that shade is not as pigmented as I was hoping it would be. Okay, so this is the final look, and I do love this look. Like, it's really pretty. I love that periwinkle shade. I really love the purple. And I'll be honest with you, that purple in the pan looks so dark and so deep, but I appreciated the fact that it's super creamy. It's probably one of the creamier purple shades that I have used. It really blends out really, really creamy, and I'm really impressed with it. I really, really like that purple shade, and I like how I was able to build this eyeshadow look without having so much purple on my eye that I just couldn't get it to blend. As far as my lippy though, I just went ahead and put on the NYX matte lip liner in the shade Soft Spoken, and I grabbed this from ColourPop. This is in the shade Dreamaholic, and it's a gloss, and I just kind of threw it on. Because I had so much going on the eye, I kind of want to like tone down the lip, you know what I mean? So I'm going to go ahead and wash this off. I'm going to do one more look, and then I will come back and give you guys my final thoughts. So I will see you guys in a sec. Okay, last look. I'm surprised that my eyes and everything are holding up. Now, I did get some staining. Purple stained my eyes a little bit, and even though I put the P. Louise base over it, I really struggled kind of getting that off. But I'm just using a makeup wipe, and I'm being very gentle because the last thing you want to do is like really go in hard on your eyes. So even though I think it stained it, I think I will be able to get it off once I cleanse my face and stuff tonight. I think it was just because I was trying to be more gentle than like, you know, making more wrinkles that I'm trying to get rid of. So I did clean my brush. I have these little brush cleaners from Sephora. And so I did clean my brushes because that purple, oh my gosh, it was not coming off. I'm gonna go into the shade Dainty. And I'm just gonna like sweep that through. This look, I wanna do something light because, you know, all the other looks have been kind of, you know, I mean, I've been playing around. So I'm kind of just putting this all over with this big fluffy brush. I'm gonna go into the shade Bright, which is kind of a bright pink shade. And we're gonna put that on and see if we can get some pigment from it. I want to go into the shade Dazzle. See what that looks like. Oh, yes. Okay, that shade is so pretty. It's as pretty. You guys know I love peach. So Dazzle and Dreamer are really pretty. And I'm like softly placing this all over. Like I'm not being like super direct with it. Oh my gosh, that shade is so pretty. I'm going to go into the shade Stunner and add just a little bit of dimension right there in the middle of the crease. I'm gonna really pack that on the outer corner. If you wanted your outer corner to be darker, I would have recommended not bringing that peach shade all over the lid. I would have recommended keeping that spot bare and then went in with like, you know, that darker shade. But I just wanted a little bit of definition. I'm gonna really pop that in the crease and just give it a little bit of definition. I'm getting fallout, so I definitely recommend doing your eyes first. Now for the lower lash line, I'm going to grab my pencil brush. I'm going to go into the shade Dainty first, and I'm going to bring that along the lower lash line. And then I'm going to go into Bright. And then I'm going to go into Stunner. Inner corner, I'm going to go into the shade Star, which is a bummer that it's really hard panned. Like, I have to kind of go in and like break up the shadow and wet it down and then go in, but it's okay. Like, that's not my favorite shade when I dampen it, but the problem is if you don't dampen it, it won't show up very much. So I don't know. I don't really love that shade. Okay, so this is the final look. I don't know what the lashes are. I just threw them on. They were just kind of light and airy, but I don't know which ones they are, which totally stinks. I know. And then I put on this from Sephora. This is their cream lip stain, and this is in the shade 05. So it's got kind of a peachy pinkish tone. And then to kind of peach it up a little bit, I went ahead and threw on this. This is my favorite lip gloss of all time. Like, historically, my favorite lip gloss. This is from KKW Beauty. This is the KKW Beauty and like Mario collaboration. This is in the shade Juicy. So this is the first two rows of the palette. So starting here, it starts out with this lighter shade and then it just kind of works its way up the arm. So I wanted to show you guys what these shades look like swatched. They're kind of hard to swatch, I'm not gonna lie. Like, they're not the easiest to swatch. Some of the shimmer shades want to swatch good, and then some of them don't. Then on this side, you have the darker shades of the palette. And this starts out with some of the more purple shades, and then it kind of runs up, and then you have these really pretty dark, like taupey shades. So this is what the palette looks like swatched. So my final thoughts on this palette is I like it, but I don't love it. This palette I wish had the exact same formula as the Desert Oasis palette. This is my favorite palette by far from BH Cosmetics, and this is like one of my top 10 favorite palettes. I love this palette. The shimmer shades, every shimmer shade in this palette is just exceptionally creamy, and you guys, they are so pigmented, and they have so much more pigment and so much more vibrancy to them. Like this one right here was my favorite. That one is called Serenity, and all of the shades in here are so creamy and blend so amazing. Like, you would never know that this palette was so affordable. This palette I felt like was an affordable palette. Some shades were hit and miss. Some shades were good, some shades didn't. I don't know, I feel like some of them are a little bit more on the dusty side and they're a little bit on the chalky side. There's good and bad with that. You just have to work harder. So even though I love the price tag of this palette, just know that when you get this palette, you're gonna have to work with it. You're gonna have to, you're gonna have to work with the shadows. You're gonna have to work with the shimmers. You're gonna have to work with the mattes. The mattes don't blend as easy as like the mattes in the Desert Oasis palette. Let me tell you something. These mattes are amazing. And these ones are a little bit chalky. They are a little bit on the drier side. Because of that, it's just a little bit harder to create a look with it. Based on doing those 4 looks, do I regret buying the palette? No, I don't. I feel like even though there were some issues within the shades, I feel like I still got my money's worth, because now if I paid like 50 bucks for this palette, I would definitely not be happy. And this would be a totally different review. I'm reviewing it based on the price tag and the blendability, the shades. There's hit and miss in the shadows. So like, for example, the Star is kind of like, in my opinion, the worst shade in the palette because it keeps getting hard panned on me. and I have to keep going in and like scratching it to get it to like be able to use it. You can see that it's hard panned. I mean, you know, that's definitely a bummer, especially when that's the lightest shimmer shade in a palette, and that's the shimmer shade that more than likely for me, I'm going to use in my inner corner. So when I picked up this palette, I automatically know that I'm not going to use Star as my inner corner highlight. You're going to have to use something different, for me anyway. And I like my inner corner highlight to be brighter. And so this is just definitely not my favorite. These shades down here are incredible. This shade down here was hard for me to blend. The Mystic, you know, you've seen it, I think it was the first look. I really struggled trying to get it out, that line to blend out. And that's the thing that I don't like about some of the darker shades in here, is that they're just a little bit hard to blend because they do have that little bit of chalkiness to them, but they're totally workable. You can totally do it. It's not like it's unusable. I've had palettes that are like completely a waste of time. So I think you need to know all the positives and the negatives when purchasing this palette. But that doesn't mean, you know, just because a palette is cheaper doesn't mean that the quality needs to be less. I feel like, I guess I'm a little bit more forgiving. I'm a little bit more forgiving of a palette when it's affordable than when it's not. So with that said, I'm definitely more forgiving of this palette. Is it my favorite palette from BH Cosmetics? Absolutely not. And in fact, even though I struggled with some of the shades in the Nauvoo palette, I still really loved this palette. So this palette, I would say, is probably something similar to the Opalescent. So this one, I struggled with the exact same experience. Some of the shades were drier, so it was hard to get them to blend out on the eye. So, you know, even though I really love this palette, and I did use it all summer long, once I kind of got used to knowing that they were going to be that way and just being accepting of it, I was totally fine with it. If you're okay with spending that kind of money on a palette that's hit and miss, then, you know, you have to make that decision. It's your hard-earned money. I'm just here from a reviewing perspective to give you all the cons and the pros, and then let you decide what you want to spend your money on. I'm not going to tell you whether to buy it or not. That is definitely your decision. My review is based on the shades that I used, what I look for when I am using a palette, the technique that I use when I am blending out eyeshadow, and, you know, I just want to give you all the feedback that I possibly can. That's my final thoughts on the palette, and that's it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you guys again for all the love that you guys show me and this channel. It truly means the world to me, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day filled with love and happiness. I will see you guys right back here tomorrow at 11 a.m., and I love you guys so much. Bye!